When it comes to the circus and flow arts and object manipulation, isolations are some of my most favorite things to perform and favorite things to see the audience react to in the crowd. This is an example of an isolation right here. We call this a two-handed ghosting isolation. This is a two-handed isolation right here. And the one-handed technique that we're about to learn here today is where you take the one hand out and you focus on just using the one hand to do all of the work. Thank you for clicking on this video and giving me a shot. What you're seeing here is my attempt at a one-handed isolation with the mini hoop, and it's not really going that well. But if you look over here, you can see an example of a one-handed hoop isolation technique. A larger overall size hoop helps, as well as a larger diameter around the rim helps a lot for making this illusion really stand out. This will be one of a series of instructional videos on how to isolate hoops. The one-handed or one-armed hoop isolation technique can be broken down very, very simply, and that technique can be broken down from switching between a thumb down grip to a thumb up grip, like this, just like this. If you switch between these two grips and allow the hoop just to fall between these two grips, it might seem ridiculous to some, but before we go forward with this tutorial, a little word on safety. A little bit of foresight and a little bit of common sense can go a long way in preventing any accidents from happening when you're practicing something. Whenever you practice something you learn here on my channel, and most certainly every time you practice something new across the board, it is always important to put safety as the top priority in your practice to ensure that you don't damage anything you care about or hurt anyone you love while you're practicing. My hoop is made of aluminum that I'm using here today, and isolations involve gripping and not letting go for the most part. There's always an exception to the rule, I've come to discover. But because this is a metal hoop, I want to reduce the chances of any accidents happening by moving any sort of small electronics or glass tables or fragile items away from the practice space. One thing we can always count on happening is that the things that we don't count on happen more often than we give credit for. But I do think it's unfortunate whenever an accident happens, especially when that accident could have been prevented with a little bit of foresight and a little bit of common sense. So with all that being considered, let's get started with the lesson. Sometimes I feel I overcomplicate things, and other times I feel like I don't explain nearly enough. So let's make this as simple and clear-cut as possible. This one-handed hoop isolation technique that looks something like this, once again, it's hard to do this technique with something so small, this close to a camera, with such a small width. But we're going to learn how to do it anyways, because this is what we're working with here. This technique comes down to learning how to switch the grip between over here and over here. This is the technique. If you can allow the hoop just to do the work for you and switch from a thumb up grip over here to a thumb down grip over here, that's pretty much the technique, is allowing this to roll over the top of the fingers or the top of the hand like this and switch between those two grips from here to there. So this right here is a great exercise. I'll stand up so you can see a little easier. You hold with the thumb up, allow it to drop, and grab with the thumb down over there. Allow it to drop and grab with the thumb up. That's the technique right there. And that is also the trickiest part when it comes to doing the whole full circle of the isolation. That's where you have the least amount of control when you're not actively gripping it. That's where the illusion could be broken potentially. So that's the important part to really focus on when you're first getting this one-handed hoop isolation technique down, is that transition period when it rolls over the hand and you don't have that grip and you don't have that full control. So we'll start over here at the 3 o'clock position with the thumb up grip. We're going to go down to the 6 o'clock, over to the 9 o'clock, and then this is where we're going to speed past 12 o'clock and go directly to 3 o'clock. Are you ready? Just like that. You'll see this often whenever you see someone doing a one-handed hoop isolation technique where they'll go slow, then fast, and then slow, and then fast. There's a reason for that. They can't necessarily go too slow when they're doing this transition on the top like this. You can't slow that down. It's like trying to slow down the butterfly technique in contact juggling or other things that depend on gravity working for you. Gravity works at a certain rate, 10 meters per second, and it's the law. And unfortunately, it's a law you can't necessarily break. You have to work with it. In this case, we're going to work with it. So once again, we start here at the 3 o'clock position, go down to the 6 o'clock position, over the 9 o'clock position. We can't twist our hand anymore. Our thumb is down. We have to let go and grip on the other side at the 3 o'clock start position and speed past 12 o'clock for this technique. Just like that. Pardon the noise. Now I have noticed this, that some hoopers prefer using this technique where it rolls between the thumb and the forefinger like this. I'll show you from a profile. Here's the profile shot. You can see that happening there too. You can also achieve that isolation with that technique, but I notice that I get more often than not a kind of smack or a strike against the hoop in my fingers. But the more important thing is to not listen to what some guy's personal struggles with when it comes to isolations are on the internet. The more important thing to do is for you to actually pick up your hoop and try various techniques and see what works with your body and what you can connect well with. I think that's very important, picking it up and actually practicing it. And I hope you're doing that with this video here today. And one more time, from the 3 o'clock position down to the 6 o'clock, over to the 9 o'clock, and let go, speed past 12, back to the 3. And to make the isolation work, what you really need to focus on is making sure you're keeping the center in the middle, the center of the sphere in one spot, in one fixed location, while the circle moves around that location, just like this. And that's the whole idea. And once again, speeding past 12 o'clock is easily the hardest part of this technique, because you're letting go and letting gravity do that work for you, and it's going to go at its own speed as well. Now you'll see here me doing this with a much larger hoop in the yard. You'll find if you do this with a larger hoop, it's a lot easier to execute, and it looks a lot better for the audience as well. Oh, and a bonus trick, one of the really cool things about doing this one-handed isolation technique is that you have a whole arm free to do other things, right? So you can take advantage of this moment. So when you're at 3 o'clock, you can stick your free hand through the hoop, go down to the 6, over to the 9, and then transition over to the top like this. And then all you have to do is pull the hand out really quick, go down and put it right back in. And it looks a little something like this. So you go really slow with the arm inside, and then you make that transition pull in and out really quick like that. And this doesn't look the best with this small hoop this close to the camera with a small diameter hoop. It moves around a lot. It doesn't look properly isolated. I'm kind of self-conscious about that. This is not my area of expertise. This is something I'm very interested in, and this is a technique that takes time to learn and is much more polished looking when you're using a larger hoop once more. Anyways, I'd like to think that I'm better at explaining how to do some of the stuff than actually executing it, and I appreciate you giving it the time of day and considering checking it out and watching this all the way to the end. Thank you so much. But before I let you go, I want to remind anyone out there who's still watching that I post a lot here on YouTube. I post every single day for the year of 2021, and I'm all over the place with my posts. I have many different interests, and I want to share them with anyone out there who's willing to listen. And one of the best ways to navigate through my channel is to go to my playlist section and click on the various different tabs that might interest you. I have one on circus and flow arts. I have one on art in general. I have ones on free open source software. I have some on real estate. I have some on frugal living. I have some on philosophy, on logic and consciousness. There's a bunch of stuff in my playlist section is the point, and maybe something else there might pique your interest next to these circus and flow arts tutorials, of which I release a new one every single Sunday for the year of 2021. So if you want to learn how to juggle balls, or juggle clubs, or contact juggle, like that thing David Bowie did in the Labyrinth with those crystal balls, or if you want to learn how to spin things on your finger like this, all you need is something flat like a book or a ring binder or a server tray, or in this case, a flat pillow off of your couch. Or you can learn how to play with the devil sticks. The devil sticks are one of my most favorite circus and flow arts props, and it's the one I've been doing for the longest period of time. You can learn the very basics, the beginner entry-level basics, broken down easy to understand, if you just go to my playlist section here on my channel, click on the circus and flow arts basics, and have your prop ready and we can learn together. Okay, I think you've had enough of me today, but I have not had enough of you. I'm going to return with more content posted every single day here for the year of 2021. So if you like what you learned here today, please remember to subscribe to my channel and follow me for more awesome circus tutorials in the future. That's a wrap, folks. I'm going to end this one the way I end all of my other videos. Please remember to never give up. Do your best, stay true to you, and be amazing, folks. Thanks for watching, and good night.